The courtroom buzzed with an electric tension that seemed to seep into every crevice of the room. An air of anticipation, thick with anxiety, filled every corner. The whispers, the furtive glances, the nervous tapping of feet, all were signs of the collective unease that gripped everyone present. After decades behind bars, the Menendez brothers found themselves back in the very place where their fate had first been sealed. The courtroom, a place of judgment and finality, now held the potential for a new beginning. But this time, something was different. The atmosphere was charged with a sense of possibility, a fragile hope that had not been present during their initial trials. Hope hung in the air, a fragile thing, easily shattered. The brothers, who had once been the epitome of despair, now wore expressions that hinted at the possibility of redemption. Judge Michael Jesic's voice, firm and unwavering, cut through the silence. His words carried the weight of the law, but also the potential for mercy. He delivered the words that would change everything. Lyle and Erik Menendez were being resentenced. The courtroom held its collective breath, the gravity of the moment sinking in. No longer facing life without parole, they were now eligible for a future outside prison walls. The courtroom erupted. The reactions were immediate and visceral. Gasps of disbelief mingled with cries of outrage. The decision was as polarizing as the case itself, stirring deep emotions and sparking heated debates. The Menendez brothers, once symbols of cold-blooded murder, were now at the center of a firestorm. Media outlets scrambled to capture every moment, every reaction. Their case, a twisted tale of family secrets and brutal violence, had taken yet another unexpected turn. The narrative that had once seemed so clear-cut was now muddied by new developments. The question on everyone's mind was the same. How could this be? How could a case that had seemed so definitive now be open to reinterpretation? How could two brothers who had confessed to brutally murdering their parents now be granted a glimmer of freedom? The legal system, it seemed, was more complex and nuanced than many had realized. The answer, it turned out, lay in the intricate web of California law, a system designed to balance punishment with the possibility of redemption. Legal experts weighed in, dissecting the nuances of the case and the laws that governed it. But even as the legal machinery churned, a profound sense of unease lingered. Had justice been served, or had the scales tipped too far in favor of mercy? The debate was far from over. The courtroom may have emptied, but the questions remained, echoing in the halls of justice and in the minds of all who had witnessed this shocking turn of events. August 20th, 1989. A date that would forever be etched into the annals of true crime history. The air hung heavy over Beverly Hills, a city known for its glitz and glamour, where the rich and famous lived their lives in the spotlight. Thick with the scent of jasmine and the promise of a long, hot summer night, the atmosphere was deceptively serene. Inside the opulent walls of the Menendez mansion, a scene of unimaginable horror unfolded. The mansion, a symbol of their wealth and success, became the backdrop for a gruesome crime. Gunshots pierced the stillness, shattering the illusion of normalcy. The echoes of violence reverberated through the halls, leaving a trail of chaos in their wake. Jose and Kitty Menendez, a wealthy entertainment executive, and his wife, lay dead in their own living room. Their lives, once filled with luxury and privilege, were brutally cut short. Their killers, their own sons, Lyle and Erik. The revelation was as shocking as it was tragic, turning the family tragedy into a national spectacle. The murders sent shockwaves through the nation. Headlines blared the gruesome details, and the public was captivated by the unfolding drama. This wasn't a crime confined to the dark alleys or underbelly of society. It was a tragedy that had played out in the heart of affluence and privilege. The Menendez mansion, once a symbol of success, now stood as a grim reminder of the violence that had shattered its walls. At first, the brothers spun a tale of a home invasion, a random act of violence that had claimed their beloved parents. They portrayed themselves as victims of a heinous crime. But as investigators dug deeper, cracks began to appear in their story. The inconsistencies were too glaring to ignore, and the facade of innocence began to crumble. The sheer brutality of the murders, the lack of forced entry, the whispers of family secrets, it all pointed to something more sinister, a motive buried deep within the twisted dynamics of the Menendez family itself. The investigation peeled back the layers of a family facade, revealing a dark and disturbing narrative. The Menendez brothers, once seen as the epitome of privilege, were now at the center of a chilling tale of greed, betrayal, and murder. Years turned into decades. Lyle and Erik Menendez, convicted of first-degree murder and sentenced to life without parole, seemed destined to spend the rest of their days behind bars. But in the ever-shifting landscape of criminal justice, hope can emerge from unexpected quarters. In 2024, a new California law offered a lifeline to those serving life sentences for crimes committed in their youth. This law, designed to address concerns about sentencing disparities and the potential for rehabilitation, opened a door that had once seemed firmly shut. The Menendez brothers, once poster children for the failings of the justice system, now had a chance at a second hearing, an opportunity to argue that their original sentences were unduly harsh, that their youth and troubled family history had not been adequately considered. Their legal team seized upon this new law, meticulously building a case for leniency. They presented the brothers as reformed men, their remorse genuine, their potential for rehabilitation undeniable. The courtroom, once a battleground for accusations and recriminations, was now transformed into a forum for second chances. Section 4. Indefensible legal experts decry resentencing as dangerous precedent. The news of the Menendez brothers' resentencing sent shockwaves through the legal community, igniting a firestorm of debate. The case, which had long been considered closed, was suddenly thrust back into the spotlight, raising questions about the integrity of the judicial system and the principles that underpin it. Legal experts, many of whom had followed the case for decades, expressed outrage and disbelief, arguing that the decision set a dangerous precedent. They contended that reopening such a high-profile case could lead to a slippery slope where other convicted criminals might seek similar resentencing, thereby undermining the finality of court decisions. "This is not justice," declared renowned criminal defense attorney Alan Carter. He emphasized that the original trial had been thorough and fair, with both sides presenting extensive evidence and arguments. The jury's verdict, he argued, should be respected and upheld. This is a mockery of the system. Carter, along with a chorus of other legal scholars, argued that the resentencing undermined the principle of finality in the courts. They warned that such actions could erode public trust in the judicial system, making it appear as though verdicts could be easily overturned or modified based on changing societal attitudes or legal interpretations. "When does it end?" he asked. "If every case is subject to review and potential modification, the stability and predictability of the legal system are at risk. This could lead to a never-ending cycle of appeals and resentencing, creating chaos and uncertainty for all involved. If we keep revisiting old cases, where does that leave victims and their families? The emotional toll on those who have already endured the trauma of a trial and its aftermath cannot be overstated. For the families of victims, the prospect of a resentencing can reopen old wounds and prolong their suffering." The crux of the experts' argument centered on the nature of the Menendez brothers' crimes. They pointed out that the brothers had been convicted of a particularly heinous act, one that involved premeditation and a complete disregard for human life. This wasn't a case of youthful indiscretion or a crime of passion, they argued. The Menendez brothers had meticulously planned and executed the murder of their parents, an act that shocked the nation and left an indelible mark on the collective consciousness. This was a calculated, cold-blooded act, meticulously planned and brutally executed. The level of premeditation and the brutality of the crime, they argued, warranted the original sentences handed down by the court. To reduce their sentences based on a law designed for less egregious offenses, they claimed, was to disregard the gravity of their actions and the lasting impact on the victims' loved ones. The legal community remains deeply divided, with many fearing that this decision could open the floodgates for other convicted criminals seeking similar leniency, ultimately compromising the integrity of the justice system. Section 5. A generational divide. Gen Z rallies behind the Menendez brothers. While legal experts decried the resentencing, a very different reaction was brewing online. Gen Z, a generation raised on true crime podcasts and documentaries, had rediscovered the Menendez brothers' case, poring over the details, dissecting the evidence, and engaging in heated debates about guilt, innocence, and the complexities of justice. For many in this younger generation, the Menendez brothers were not monsters but victims, products of a toxic upbringing marred by abuse and manipulation. A wave of sympathy, fueled by empathy and a deep-seated distrust of traditional power structures, swept across social media platforms. Hashtags like #FreeTheMenendezBrothers and #Justice4Lyle and Erik trended on Twitter, while TikTok videos analyzing the case and highlighting alleged evidence of abuse garnered millions of views. Online petitions calling for their release circulated widely, garnering thousands of signatures. This wasn't just about the Menendez brothers, it was about a generation grappling with its own understanding of justice, trauma, and the power of second chances. Section 6. The Shadow of Doubt. Risk assessments paint a troubling picture. As the legal battle raged on and public opinion remained sharply divided, a crucial piece of the puzzle emerged: risk assessments conducted by forensic psychologists. These evaluations, designed to assess the likelihood of reoffense, painted a far less reassuring picture of the Menendez brothers than the one presented by their defense team. While acknowledging the progress they had made in prison, the assessments highlighted lingering concerns about their psychological stability and potential for violence. One report, compiled by Dr. Sarah Kendall, a renowned forensic psychologist, pointed to Erik Menendez's history of manipulation and his struggles with anger management. Another report, authored by Dr. James Harrison, raised concerns about Lyle Menendez's lack of remorse and his tendency to minimize the severity of his actions. These assessments, while not conclusive, cast a long shadow of doubt over the brothers' suitability for release. They served as a stark reminder that even after decades of incarceration, some wounds run too deep to heal, some scars too ingrained to ignore.